Let's experiment with PHP if-else structures to display different output depending on the current time. Later in this chapter, we'll apply the same techniques to the Hansel and Petal website, but this exercise concentrates on the code and control structures used. This page contains several paragraphs with greetings for different times of the day. What we need to do is to use PHP decision-making structures to display the correct greeting. We also want to display the current day and the time in the 24-hour clock. Now, PHP has an extremely useful function called date that gets the current date and time from the web server, and you can use it to generate different outputs, such as the day of the week or the hour, by passing it a format string as an argument. And even though I've been using PHP for years, I still find it difficult to remember all the formatting characters. So let's go to the PHP online documentation and look at the documentation for the date function. And if we scroll down, there's a list of the format characters with description and examples. So if you use a lowercase d, that gives you the day of the month, 2 digits with leading zeros, 01 through to 31. What we want is Sunday through Saturday. That's a full textual representation of the day of the week. So it's a lowercase l that we need as our format character. And we also want the time. And if we look down here, uppercase H is the 24-hour format of an hour with leading zeros, and lowercase I is minutes with leading zeros. So let's get back to work with our new knowledge. Need to put a PHP block above the doc type. And we're going to create 3 variables to store those details. So the first one will be day, and it's date, and the format string, it's a string so it must be in quotes, is lowercase l. And then the time is date, and then the format string is uppercase H, and then a colon. You can put in literal characters as long as they're not already formatting characters, and a colon is not. So this will appear as a colon between the hour and the minutes. The minutes is lowercase I. Close that string. And then finally we want to have the hour. And we'll do date. And the format string is uppercase H. There we are. We've got those variables ready. We can now display them in the page. So scroll down, and in this paragraph here, we'll add a PHP block. Echo day. And for the time, another PHP block. So let's save that page and test it in a browser. And the address will be localhost /exercises /chapter 03 03_02/ and then the name of the file, which was date_parts.php. And there we are. Today is Tuesday, and the time is now 15:07. Now, don't worry if you get warning about time zones or the time is wrong. We'll deal with that later in the chapter. What we need to deal with now is making sure that we get the correct greeting displayed. We've got 4 greetings here at the moment. It's 15:07, in other words, just gone 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we want to display good afternoon. So let's get back to work with our code. And before good morning, we need to insert a PHP code block with an if statement. And the condition will be hour greater than 5, or that's 2 vertical pipes, and we need to repeat hour, and it will be less than 12. Then the opening curly brace, and I'm going to close the PHP block here. A lot of people think that if you're using an if-else structure, all the code between the braces need to be written in PHP. That's not the case. You can in fact have plain HTML between the opening and closing braces. And in fact, it's more efficient to do it that way than converting all the HTML into a string and using echo or print. And this also avoids the need to escape any quotation marks in the HTML. So let's go down underneath that paragraph. we can add in a new PHP block and then put in the closing curly brace there. And what we need to do is to have our else if statement. So writing else if as all one word. And then the hour needs to be greater than or equal to 12, or the hour needs to be less than 18. Opening curly brace, and then close that PHP block. Move down underneath good afternoon. Another PHP block. Close that curly brace. Another else if. I'm using else if all as one word. You can split it into two, but using one word is more normal in PHP. So for the evening, we need the condition hour is greater than or equal to 18, or hour is less than 23. Another opening brace, close that off. And then underneath here, another PHP block, closing curly brace, and we don't need to have another condition because if it's not any of those previous conditions, it's going to be late at night. So just else here, that opening curly brace, close that off, and of course we need to finish off at the end with a closing curly brace. And that goes, of course, inside a PHP block. So there we are. No syntax errors. We can save the page, go back to our browser. The time, of course, will be different when I reload the page because it's getting it from the server. There we are. The time is now 15:11, 11 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. Oh dear. It says good morning. Why has that happened? Well, in some respects, it was a deliberate mistake, and it's a very common mistake for people to make. If the hour is greater than 5, then that will be true. So the hour is greater than 5, it's 15. The fact that it's less than 12 doesn't make any difference, because what happens when you use or is only one of them needs to be true. So in fact, all of these are wrong. We need to use a double ampersand to make it and. So both sides of the condition need to be true, or both parts of the condition need to be true. There we are, we've changed all those. Save the page again, go back to our browser. Time's now 15:12. Good afternoon. Success. So this has been only a simple example of using if-else to control output in PHP, but it's demonstrated several important points. First of all, we got several different date parts of the current date and time using the date function and formatting characters. Then lower down in the page, we used if, else if, and else to build a conditional structure. Each condition used comparison operators, and each block used a multiple condition. The original script used or in each conditional block, but that resulted in the first condition never failing. And it wasn't until we changed it to and that both parts of the condition were checked. Choosing between and or isn't always as simple as it first seems. And the final important point is that the code between the curly braces of an if-else structure doesn't necessarily have to be PHP. You can also have just HTML or a mixture of HTML and PHP.